What is up, YouTube, and welcome back to Geeky Times. Now, today we're going to be talking about the Sith Inquisitors, which is a group of ex-Jedi who were captured after Order 66, tortured, and then became Sith. Now, they're not technically real Sith because everyone knows the Sith is the rule of two. These are what are known as the Sith Inquisitors. These are actually ex-Jedi that were brought into the fold in order to hunt down any Jedi who escaped Order 66. After being introduced by Dave Filoni in Star Wars Rebels, the Sith Inquisitors found themselves in the Darth Vader comic line from 2018 and 2019, before finally showing up in the Jedi Fallen Order video game where they faced off against Cal Kestis. In each of these three separate stories, we always find that the Inquisitors have a very minuscule story. However, putting it all together, we find out that there's a lot more to them than just what we saw on screen in comic and in-game. In the Darth Vader comic line, we see that Emperor Palpatine actually puts Vader in charge of them. Well, Vader doesn't have all the time in the world to just oversee these guys regularly, so he put the Grand Inquisitor in charge of the Inquisitors as kind of an intermediary so that he can go and do what he needs and just contact the Grand Inquisitor outside of that time. Very little is known as to how you become a Grand Inquisitor. It's insinuated in Star Wars Rebels that the Grand Inquisitor is kind of just chosen because of their talents. What we do know about the Grand Inquisitor, though, is that he is in charge of all the Inquisitors and answers only to Darth Vader. However, the Grand Inquisitor that we see in the show is a Pau'an from Wutapau. He was originally a Jedi Temple guard, and before he meets his untimely death was hunting down Ezra Bridger. And with the Grand Inquisitor dead, all the Inquisitors started vying for the role. They all wanted to be the top Inquisitor. The two that we saw most vying for it were the Fifth Brother and the Seventh Sister. We're introduced to these two characters, and they actually lead us to being introduced back to Maul again. Now, during our first encounter with this character, Ezra Bridger is actually captured, but the Fifth Brother wants to kill Ezra Bridger, but he's stopped by the Seventh Sister, who says, hey, let's use him as a trap so that we can capture, Sabine, who is still around, and the rest of his friends. This actually does work out well for the Fifth Brother, because the Fifth Brother does capture Sabine when she tries to ambush him. Now, unfortunately, they don't get to keep a hold of Sabine and Ezra, because those two escape on the Phantom when it arrives in an ambush. Following the escape of Ezra and Sabine, they do continue to clash over and over and over, even after Ezra, Kanan, and Ahsoka all reunite. Now, unfortunately, due to their failures, the Seventh Sister and the Fifth Brother are sent over to Malachor, where they're sent to get a Sith holocron. When they get there, they meet the Eighth Brother, who's also there. However, his mission is to hunt down Darth Maul, a character who we hadn't seen in Rebels until now. Now on Malachor, the three Inquisitors are actually going to meet up with Ezra, Kanan, and Ahsoka once again. However, now they're joined with Darth Maul, and Darth Maul actually kills the Fifth Brother in a fight. After his defeat, the Seventh Sister then follows Maul and Ezra, but Maul grabs her with the Force and lifts her in the air, telling Ezra that he has to kill her so that he can become his apprentice. Now, Ezra declines that. Ezra's a good guy. Ezra doesn't want to kill anyone, so Maul kills her right up in front of him. Now, unfortunately, now that the Seventh Sister and the Fifth Brother are dead, the Eighth Brother is the only one that's left. And he doesn't want to die, so he jumps off the pyramid using his lightsaber as a propeller, kind of like a helicopter, to slow his descent so that he can get to the ground and escape. Unfortunately, what he doesn't realize is that Kanan Jarrus has damaged his lightsaber in the battle, and so when he jumps off the pyramid, it doesn't work, and he falls to his death. Now, all of that takes place in Rebels, but that is not all we know about all of the Inquisitors, because two Inquisitors are actually shown in Jedi Fallen Order. Jedi Fallen Order follows Cal Kestis, a Jedi Padawan during Order 66 who flees to a junkyard to survive and live as low-key as possible. Unfortunately, in an accident, he has to use the Force, which causes a ripple effect that leads to the Second Sister and the Ninth Sister showing up. Now, Trilla Siduri and Masana Tide are both the Second Sister and the Ninth Sister. Now, the Second Sister, Trilla, was originally a Jedi Padawan just like Cal Kestis. After Order 66, her and her master, Ser Junda, were captured and tortured at the hands of Darth Vader until Ser actually escaped and left Trilla there to continue to be tortured. And due to this torture, she actually becomes the Second Sister. Just like Trilla, the Ninth Sister was originally a Jedi as well. She gets captured after Order 66 and becomes the Ninth Sister through torture. During her training and in a show of superiority, Darth Vader actually cuts her eye out. She holds this against Darth Vader until the day she dies. And unfortunately, one of the things that happens after that is that she goes on a mission with Darth Vader, and she is left outside. And because she's not involved in Darth Vader's interrogation, when Vader's lightsaber gets destroyed, and he's left in there almost helpless, but I mean it's Darth Vader, so he's not really helpless, he calls for her to come in and finish off the assailants. Now, she doesn't do that, and when he comes out and questions her about that, she says, "Oh, I'm sorry, there was an electric pulse that fried my comms, and I couldn't hear you." Unlike the three from Rebels, these two Inquisitors don't actually work together that much. I mean, they show up, but generally they're separate. Trilla is more of a hunter type, and she likes to hunt alone, because the Ninth Sister is very broody, and very much just likes the thrill of the fight. She doesn't care what happens. So they don't really fight together as much. The two of them generally clash with Cal Kestis regularly throughout the game. However, you fight them separately, more so fighting Trilla than you will fight Masana. That being said, you will actually fight the Ninth Sister's final fight before you fight the final fight with the Second Sister. You end up on Kashyyyk with Saw Gerrera, and you have to climb the Tree of Origins. When you reach to the top of that, the Ninth Sister will actually fly up there in a spaceship and just meet you there in a final battle. During this fight, she'll continue to charge at you over and over again until you cut her arm off. Once you cut the Ninth Sister's arm off, she actually continues to try and fight you, which is very much to her character. She's very violent. She loves a good fight. Due to her will to fight and her lack of retreat, you actually are forced to kill her by throwing her from the tree. Now after this, you do a few more missions and you unlock a holocron, which is what you've been trying to do the entire game. Now unfortunately, Trilla was also anticipating this, and she followed you and takes that holocron from you before retreating to Nur, which is the Inquisitor headquarters. Now because of the confidential information that's on there, you can't let Vader know what the secrets are. And so because of that, you also go to Nur, where you fight her for the last time. You beat her, and you give her a chance to make amends with her master, who has also come with you. Now they do reconcile, but not before Darth Vader himself shows up and cuts Trilla down right in front of you, ending the Second Sister. Now we've covered Rebels and Jedi Fallen Order, let's talk about the three Sith Inquisitors that never made it onto the big screen. Now the only one that's actually got a title is the 10th brother. The 10th brother is actually former Jedi Master Praset Dibs. Unlike the other Inquisitors, Praset Dibs may not have been tortured into his role. The only reason that we can say that is because he was a Jedi Master much like the other ones before. However, during the Clone Wars, he didn't agree with the role that the Jedi had. Praset Dibs actually fought Mace Windu in a duel and lost because he said that the Jedi were doing exactly what the Separatists were doing in just trying to expand their empire. After that battle, he's brought back to Coruscant and put on trial before Yoda and the rest of the council, where they were going to put him to death. Now, ironically, Mace Windu shows up and says, "Hey, don't kill him." Which is crazy because in the movies, Mace Windu is constantly shown as this guy who is all about taking action first. Instead, Mace Windu says, "Let's rehabilitate him," and then Order 66 happens. Unfortunately, as the 10th brother after Order 66, he doesn't last that long. They go on a Jedi hunting mission on Mon Cala to find Farron Barr, an ex-Jedi, who actually manipulates the clone troopers that they have with them to say, "Hey, look, these guys, the Inquisitors, are fallen Jedi, and you have to kill all Jedi, so you have to kill them too." And unfortunately, during this, he actually gets shot and dies, which is unfortunate because he had a really cool design, and I wish I would have seen him more on screen. That just leaves us with the two unidentified Inquisitors. Now, we know that there is a black male Twi'lek and a red-skinned alien female, but we don't actually know their names. We don't know anything about where they came from, whether they were Padawans, Jedi Knights, Jedi Temple Guards, but all we know is that they let someone escape. Or more so, the red female lets someone escape. Now, the sister lets a target escape during one of their missions, and when she comes back, her loyalty is called into question by Darth Vader. Now, Vader senses that there's a bond between the two of them, and actually this entire mission that they had gone on previously was about severing bonds. And so the fact that they still have these bonds is enough for Vader to be like, "Hey, you guys have to stop." Vader gives the Twi'lek an option to kill her and sever that bond, but he actually says, "Nah, and then leaves with her. The two of them run, and there's a whole fight around Coruscant where they're fighting each other, and they're throwing ships at Vader. Vader's throwing ships back. Vader actually crash lands, and when they think they have the upper hand, he grabs them in a force grab and actually ignites their sabers, killing the opposite standing in front of each other. There is actually one brother that we haven't even mentioned yet. His name is Bill Valen, and he was originally in the Jedi Order. Much like the other ones, we're just going to assume that he was tortured into being one of the Inquisitors. And much like the Ninth Sister, he lost a limb whenever Vader was trying to teach him a lesson and lost. He cut his arm off. Now, after getting a prosthetic put on, he actually is sent on a mission to hunt down Force-sensitive children. Now, during this time, he actually gets a report about a possible Jedi hiding on Ra'ada. Now, of course, those of you who have read the book Ahsoka know that this is where Ahsoka's been hiding the entire time after Order 66. Now, when he shows up, the Sixth Brother starts killing and torturing occupants looking for Ahsoka, who actually has fled at this time, but she does return after making secure evacuation plans for the people on the moon. Now, her fight with the Sixth Brother actually isn't that long, but it is very important to Ahsoka's character. She left her lightsabers at the end of Star Wars Clone Wars, but she decided to start building a whole nother set. Unfortunately, she didn't have kyber crystals, and the Sixth Brother did. And when she's fighting him, she can actually hear the kyber crystals in his dual-sided lightsaber singing to her. And she uses the Force to rip them out, which overloads his lightsaber, exploding it and killing him in the process. Those crystals, then she uses to become her white lightsabers that we see in Star Wars Rebels. Despite not seemingly being a major part because they've been so spread out through everything, these characters are actually pretty important to the Star Wars universe between episodes 3 and 4. Of course, most of this takes place within the first 4 or 5 years, while Luke is growing up. That's all I've got for you today, guys. If you have any topics that you want to see me cover, make sure to leave a comment down below. Otherwise, like, share, and subscribe, and hit that bell just so that you can get every single thing that I bring up next.